Researching Histories of Mercy by James Gregory, Associate Professor in Modern British History, the University of Plymouth. In this short video, I talk about researching the history of mercy in British culture, why I embarked on it, and what it has ended up being. First, a definition from an encyclopedia of 1845 of mercy as willingness to spare and save, to pardon and forgive, to kindness, clemency, compassion, sympathy, pity. And here is a chromolithographic rendering of Queen Victoria, an important figure in my research, this taken from a painting of 1859, reproduced in a Jubilee volume of 1897. I've been working on themes relating to mercy for some time, ever since my master's research on capital punishment in the Victorian period, which then led on to research on vegetarianism in the same century. But the Mercy Project really began when I had funded research in the Royal Archives. This allowed me to look at correspondence between the Queen and her Home Secretaries and Prime Ministers in relation to capital punishment, studying her response to attempts at regicide, her attitudes to infanticide, and her treatment of the punishment of other crimes. And this is an engraving from the Illustrated London News in March 1857, showing the colossal marble statue group in the House of Lords, showing Queen Victoria between justice and clemency. These are two images reproducing popular mythology of the young Queen being tearfully reluctant to sign death warrants. I've been interested in how the Queen was appealed to by capital punishment abolitionists or those campaigning for the reprieve of particular men and women. She was involved in matters of life and death, not because of the signing of death warrants, a really enduring popular misconception, but because of the royal prerogative of mercy used on her behalf by the Home Secretary. Despite the realities of this bureaucratic mercy, the Queen was imagined by many of her subjects to exercise this power of mercy. This work has led finally to the writing of the Royal Throne of Mercy, published in 2020, which studies the place that appeals to monarchy had in British culture, and followed by another book taking the theme of mercy beyond monarchy to look at its representation in literary forms, in religious poetry, in the novels of the Victorian era, the enduring place of Shakespeare's texts on mercy in Isabella's words in Measure for Measure, and Portia's in The Merchant of Venice, the famous Quality of Mercy speech. And here is Ellen Terry, the actress, as Portia from an engraving in the Illustrated Sporting and Dramatic News in 1879. I've looked at mercy's embodiment in terms of ideas about race, gender, and age, including such topics as woman's perception as the more merciful sex, the education of children in order to inculcate mercy through animal kindness in organisations such as the Band of Mercy, the gestures of mercy, the bodily representation in phrases such as bowels of mercy, the idea of mercy as being located in the heart or visible to be read in the countenance. And this is a representation of Queen Philippa of Hainault appearing to her husband, King Edward II of England, to save the lives of captives, taken from the Illustrated London News in 1846. I then looked at mercy in the British world at a number of points over the last 2.5 centuries. Mercy is a theme in Anglo-Irish relations from rebellion to 20th century civil war. From Ireland, I turn to mercy as the rhetorical response to French revolutionary terror and revolutionary justice. The British Isles under George III presented as a haven of Christian mercy. How does this imperial history look when we take it into account this rhetoric of rule with truth, justice, and mercy? From considering mercy's place in empire through actions such as anti-slavery and anti-slavery propaganda, I've examined mercy at war. Mercy was a key charge against the imperial state in the colonial war of American independence, and Nicola Eustace has charted in her History of Emotions, Passion is the Gale, the shifting place of the word mercy in American discourse in this era. This is Punch's comment on the Governor-General Charles Canning's policy of clemency during the Indian Mutiny from 1857. I take the study of mercy from this conflict through the era of Victoria's Little Wars, thinking how mercy is extolled or pragmatically limited in discussion of military conduct and the reputation of naval and army heroes. I look at the British and their allies' mobilisation of the discourse of mercy in the Great War against German Schrecklichkeit, including contrasting the mercy of Edith Cavell with the beastliness of the Hun, who faked appeals for battlefield pity with the cry, "Mercy, Kamerad," according to British propaganda. This is the detail of an early Victorian engraving of John Trumbull's famous Death of General Warren, showing John Small staying a fellow Briton's bayonet. And this is an image from a stereoscopic photograph from the Great War, purporting to show bewildered Huns coming out of their dugouts in answer to our bombs. I didn't intend the study to continue into the 20th century post-war period, but surprisingly for a word that has more recently been discussed by philosophers as having the odour of outdatedness, I found mercy remained, to quote Raymond Williams's concept, a key word. So my study, which I see as a cultural history that involves history of an idea, virtue, emotion, feeling, has taken me through interwar Britain, Britain's observing and commenting on the politics of extremism that led to Spanish Civil War, Soviet show trials, and Nazi terror. In their commentary, mercy remained a concept to invoke. Closer to home, and in the British Empire, mercy figured in discussing the Irish Civil War, in condemning the Amritsar massacre, in assessing the entry of women in jury service, and debating the claims of the eugenics movement. These all gave renewed life to the language of mercy. Portia's words remained part of public culture, for example quoted in newspaper headlines. I've ended up looking at the post-war era too, when in the aftermath of Holocaust and the atomic bomb, reference to mercy was not immediately replaced by the language of the new United Nations with universal rights and humanitarianism. I don't think I've finished my engagement with the history of mercy. It isn't just a British discourse after all. But for now, if you're interested, the two books, The Royal Throne of Mercy in British Culture in the Victorian Age, Mercy in British Culture, 1760 to 1960, examine the themes I've sketched out, and much more.